Damn it. Turn this off. See if my sound is working. I think so. We'll tune me up just a hair. We're going to hit the button here. There's a funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 on Newswire, on Facebook, Twitch, and Jesse, who's on still over at KMET, had to sit in today, so we're doing a solo today. And here goes my phone rings 27 times just before I get ready to go on the air, but that's nothing further from the truth on that. And the reason I was a little bit late, because one of those calls that just came in across the board of that, for those of you in Moreno Valley, coming up, I just got the call from Moses Reza of Highland Fairview Community. Here's the deal. Today is a great day for all who call Moreno Valley home. Thank you for all your support. Bright future for Moreno Valley is making the World Logistics Center a reality. So it looks like the World Logistics Center, they have settled all the cases. Everything's a go. There's no more government roadblocks to the deal. Here's the story, I think, in City News Service. Developed 5-year fight over mega warehousing project ends in Riverside County. Developer has agreed to range of compromises intended to offset environmental impacts in the 2,700-acre Moreno Valley complex. So there you go. There's some just hot off the press. I'm assuming that the I's have been dotted and the T's are crossed. Has been signed. Everything's done. No more roadblocks for World Logistics Center in Moreno Valley as far as the legal, environmental wacko stuff, anything like that. So that is extremely good news on that. Hopefully the project will be on the road to fruition, and capitalism will reign in Moreno Valley and hopefully the world. That part I'm not so sure about. We got slow Joe Biden. 99th day in office, he addressed the joint session of Congress, which means the Senate and the House. What was there, and we'll get into that in a second. But explain to you the stats. In the 70s, 25% of all labor in the United States was union labor in the private sector. Almost none in the public sector. I think there was one in Wisconsin or Minnesota, but Jerry Brown was basically in 74. We went through the Dick Barnes deal. Cops and firefighters, you're responsible for this. Back in 72, this fight did not start on that. If you want it, you are free to come in. We got plenty of microphones, phone lines. We'll start with the Assemblyman Dick Barnes, Police and Fire, starting in 1972. You want to know why we're in this situation today? We will go through the history and we will discuss it. And then we will let the people decide who's been telling you the truth and who has not. That's all I can do. And I mean, again, tacit agreement. If you're not willing to come in or dispute, defend, or dispute anything I've said, then you are agreeing with it. On to Joe Biden. We said that 25% all labor in the 70s was unionized labor in the private sector. That is down to 6%, a over 400% decrease. Public sector unions are now more unionized representation by the AFL-CIO on down in the United States. That means there are more public sector unionized workers than private sector unionized workers. We went through yesterday on the whiteboard of why you will steadily ruin your economy by having the government invest, do your jobs, educate your kids, and do practically everything else. I mean, there were things I disagreed about Ronald Reagan with. Amnesty, the 86 Gun Control Act. But one thing he said was the most terrifying words you can hear was, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." This is Joe Biden. We're just going to play one clip here of Joe Biden at the joint session of Congress yesterday. Here we go.
The American Jobs Plan will create jobs that lay thousands of miles of transmission lines needed to build a resilient and fully clean grid. We can do that. Look, the American Jobs Plan will help millions of people get back to their jobs and back to their careers. 2 million women have dropped out of the workforce during this pandemic.
That's all you really need to know. The rest of the BS that he went through, you're thinking, oh, we're going to get to those of you that are on the Biden train, oh, we're going to get jobs. We're going to do this. No. You are going to get a government job or a government handout. And as we explained yesterday, that is a road to failure because the investment, wealth creation of investment, only 5% return on government, 10% in the private sector. The growth rate is so slow that you will not see the vast expansion of the United States economy the past 200 plus years under, well, we can debate when the change came, but let's say in 200 years, went from zero basically to a $22 trillion gross domestic product economy. And you can only do that by private property rights, and you get to keep what you earn. That is the incentive. Once you take that out, you're done. That's why unions are done, as in the private sector. They took out the incentive for companies to make it, to be able to build and grow, tax them to death on this. And as he said, 2 million women have lost jobs. Every category under Trump in 3+ years, besides straight white males, lowest black unemployment, lowest Hispanic unemployment, most employment, lowest unemployment for women, highest job gains, wage rate gains in all three of those categories and every other one. Largest in history, either in job gains, lowest in unemployment. The wheels come off as soon as Joe Biden got in. The wall, rumor has it, and the trucks are back moving right on the border, right where the wall stopped. You know, it's costing us $1 million a day to pay the contractors to sit on their hands when Joe Biden, 5 minutes after he signed in, January 20th, 2021, and shut the wall construction off. We've been paying $1 million a day on top of the crisis he created by doing it. Not only the thousands and millions of lives lost or destroyed, either lost or destroyed through sex trafficking, human trafficking, and everything else. It's sickening. We're going to go through the whiteboard again on the Joe Biden topic. This is where you're in deep trouble. $2 trillion COVID relief bill. $2 trillion virus bill. $2 trillion infrastructure bill. On top of a $5 trillion budget for the United States and the regular stuff. That's $11 trillion. Our GDP is only $22 trillion. Right there. The federal government is 50%. If the Biden plan passes, will be 50% of our economy, and that's not counting the $3 trillion in state and local governments. You are well over 50%, going to 60 to 65 to 70 to 100. Under Joe Biden, the government will control everything. And they said, once you cross over 50%, that the government is 50% plus one over the GDP, you no longer have a free country. Zip, nada, nothing. You are on the road to socialism, totalitarianism, and brokeism. This, and even this, $11 trillion, $3 trillion state and local. Your state and local governments are almost 4 times less than your federal government. Now, just go back about 100 years ago, a little over at 1914 when the income tax was passed. State and local governments were 2/3 of government spending. The federal government was only 1/3. Now they are like 80% of it. You no longer have local, even in your government, you no longer have local control because remember the golden rule. He who makes the gold makes the rules. And right now, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, you, your state governments, and all that are sucking wind to Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck E. Schumer as our representatives in the federal government. That's all you really need to know. That's why it takes, it's almost been 6 years. August 18th, 2021 will be the 6th year the World Logistics Center passed the City Council in Moreno Valley. That was 2015. Well, no, August 20th, I think. We started the hearings on the 18th, 19th. They ran 3 days. August 20th, City Council passed World Logistics Center. Almost 6 years later, they can finally are allowed to move one stick of dirt. Or not allowed to, at least apply to move one stick of dirt. Now they got to go through the city process and all that. That could take another couple years. This is what happens when the government runs everything. In 2 words, you're screwed. That's the bottom line. And if you don't believe it, just keep on the path you're going, because that's where it's going to go. This is a stunning story. This is on Newswire. Greg Kelly reports, the cop killer they won't talk about. Here we go.
This is amazing. It's very tragic. It also reveals a lot about the fake conversation that's happening right now in America, or lack of a conversation about certain things. So the other night here in New York City, a police officer was killed, a member of the Highway Patrol. He had responded to a fatal vehicular accident, and he was directing traffic, and he was clipped by a drunk driver, all right? Now, his name, Police Officer Anastasios Sakos, a 14-year veteran of the force, leaves behind a 6-year-old daughter and 3-year-old girl. Now, the person believed responsible is this individual. Her name is Jessica Boves, 32 years old. And yes, twice the legal limit of alcohol in her system. Now, that would be a tragedy and would be infuriating, but it gets more interesting and worse, because the way she spent the final hours before this accident, well, she was venting on Facebook for 90 minutes about how much she hates cops, how much she despises law enforcement. And throughout it all, she's downing vodka left and right. Here are her thoughts on law enforcement.
This is going to be stunning.
Why do you need a weapon to do your job? The f so afraid of? Because some people really don't give a f, like NWA say about the police. If you're going to kill me, at least I get to take a couple of you with me. I'm one of those sick people. If I'm going to go, some of y'all is coming.
Catch that? Sick people? Yeah, I think she's right there. Something about she's going to take somebody with her, and citing that vile song about police by NWA. More on
NWA. Another word, but Negroes with Attitude is what that stands for. The group that sang the Cop Killer song and everything. And she's going on talking about taking out police, and then went out and actually, it's allegedly happened. Officer Tacos is dead. And she's on a rant on Facebook, and they allow this? Well, they take the 45th president and many others, Twitter, Google, Facebook, they take the president off of it. I want to know when President Trump said anything like this. But they allow this to stand. Why do you think they're giving $226 million to Gavin Newsom? Part of their contribution, a big part. Facebook, Google. Because they think they're in control. They think they're part of the crew. When that all comes flopping down, they're all going to be more than likely in more trouble than anyone could ever think about. You might think you're blanking in tall cotton, Zuckerberg, Bezos, and all that, and you are today. But as they say, tomorrow is another day. There's another story up on the on here. Another disturbing story.
Some days you just don't have it. Not
the country. Another officer lost his life. So we're going to play this clip.
lower your risk of cardio.
Well, in a second, if it gets off the app. No, another officer, but there's a common theme in this. Another officer lost his life in a dispute. You know what? That same image comes up. LeBrons, why don't you work in your community? Stop the cop killers. When you put up, you're next. And 2 officers are dead by ones that look like you. It's fascinating. Of what goes on. Here's a clip from Donald J. Trump. On big tech. Here we go. I thought.
And inappropriate gestures by student athletes, even on the internet. But Brandy's post, as I said, was made off campus after school hours.
I have the chance to show other people that.
Wrong one. Let me see which one is playing here that should not be playing on that, because I want to get to the Trump clip. But no, he was basically running down big tech as, and where they were the problem, the censoring that goes on across the board. And we will, let me see if I can get the clip back up, hopefully. Which one have we got here? I think we got
President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. What would you like to see in terms of big tech in the way of legislation?
By the way, the New York Post has been fantastic. It's a great newspaper. They have been so honest, so honorable.
They've done great
work. Along with some others, in all fairness, but they have done great journalism, great writing, and Michael Goodwin and some others that have been so incredible, actually. They've really stepped up to the plate. I think it's our nation's oldest newspaper, but they have they have been really amazing, when you think about it. Look, big tech has gone crazy. Anybody that has a voice that they disagree with, like me, they ban. My voice happens to be correct, but they ban. I had really much more. I mean, if you look at my numbers with Facebook and Twitter, I guess close to 200 million people. I think I was number 1. And they banned me because the voice was strong. Well, now I continue to have a strong. I just put out releases and everybody prints what I say. I think it's actually much more elegant than Twitter. It gets the word out just as well. Not everybody can do that, unfortunately. So it's very unfair to a lot of other people. I think I'm getting my word out as strongly as I ever did, maybe better and in a better way, in a more elegant way, I will say that, than doing a so-called tweet. But they are taking over. You look at Google, and you only find bad stories. In other words, if you go on to Trump, Donald Trump, you only find, if there's a negative story, they put it in. If there's a positive...
That's called censorship. And they think they control the media. They think they control all of this stuff, and they are to an extent right now. But once this stuff, as it's getting exposed each and every day, you've seen the Newsmax report, Fox 11, or Fox 26 in Delaware, showing the cops, and LeBron James, exposing them for what they really are. That's when you're seeing a revolution, and you're seeing that even in Trump. Maybe you're going to see an even more effective communicator of Donald J. Trump coming up on that. He said he's almost 100% sure he's going to run for president in the United States. He also said on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, would make an absolutely fantastic running mate to do that. That would be absolutely fantastic in my view. We need to do that. But first, as I've said, we need to recall Gavin Newsom, start that out, take back the House and the Senate in 2022 with freedom and liberty loving-minded folks, regardless of party. I don't care if they're in the Green Party. Republican, Democrat. In fact, you've all heard me go about the Republican Party. They're much more dangerous than Democrats. And those of you that think you're going to reform the Republican Party and you're on this mission and you think you got a plan, just remember the number one rule of tyrants and dictators. When the rules don't fit, change the rules. So once you get all your stuff in place, or you think you're making some inroads in the Republican Party, remember what I just said. Because I've seen that story happen time and time again. And as the great radio detective Jerry Pierce used to say, past history is the best indication of future behavior. And there was no truer words probably that have ever been spoken on that. Because, and the best indication of what's going to happen with this grassroots movement in the Republican Party is once it starts take a foothold in, watch the establishment change the rules. And remember, your political parties are not government agencies or anything else, or private business private organizations. So they can do that. Look at how many Republicans threw Donald Trump under the bus on that. You won't see Democrats do that. They will fight. Like I say, Democrats play by guerrilla warfare. Republicans play by Marcus of Queensberry rules. And we know who wins 98.7% of the time in that scenario. And I will say it's the guys not, and it ain't the guys playing by Marcus of Queensberry rules. And you got California as a prime example of how that all works. Each and every day we've been experiencing it. They will do the we will be the crash test dummies for that. They perfect it here, fine tune it, then spread it out against the rest of the country. The climate change and the whole shebang will greet us. You will see it unless you stop it. And stop it we will, coming here, maybe in just about 6 months. That'll probably be towards the end of the year, the recall of Gavin Newsom election we're on. And like I said, politically, if you're going after the king, you better take him out. Because if he stays in power, then you're in deep blanking trouble on that. We'll be joining KMET here
30 seconds.
A minute or 30 seconds. And we'll hopefully we'll have Susan Shelley on to get her thoughts on all of this stuff, because she's a heck of a lot smarter than I am. Which you could probably say that about probably the vast majority of the population, but what the heck? You still got a life to live. On that.
10 seconds. Here we go.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air. The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met, 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire and the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience on IE Newswire on Facebook, Twitch. And the social medium Jesse hates is YouTube, so they'll come after him this time, hopefully. He's pushing all the buttons back in KMET. I'm here running the whole shebang on that. We had a couple glitches on the videos, but we got them worked out. But all in all, it's been running fairly smoothly on that. We went over Joe Biden. The big Trump announcement this morning, he basically almost made the announcement that he's running for president in 2024. And it was an hour-long interview, the whole thing. He spent almost an hour on with Mornings with Marie on Fox News, Fox Business News, I should say. And it was a very compelling interview. Like he said right at the end, I didn't know I was going to give the world's longest interview, but as you know, Donald Trump, once you get him on a roll, he's hard to stop. You know, his interview with on Fox Business News with Maria Bartiromo, I should say, was almost as long as Joe Biden's speech. And I heard his speech was almost as long as his address to the joint session of Congress was almost as long as Bill Clinton's, almost only 1 more minute less. So he talked more at the hearing than Donald J. Trump. So I'm going to see that if we. Oh, I think we got it. We missed it. I think that was Susan Shelley calling in, but we'll see if that. See if she. We'll see if we can hit it now. I think we got it now. Yes, I think we got it in. As we do usually once a week, we have the editorial writer from the Press Enterprise, Saturday Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, and Red Lake Daily Facts, but even more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. I'll get it out. Susan Shelley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Roy. How are you today?
Absolutely fantastic. Hit the Joe Biden speech a little bit, because I definitely want to get into your column because it's something I've talked about a lot. But the first thing that struck me right off of the deal was when he was basically almost co-opting the Trump, agenda and trying to put it on his, or trying to make it look like he's doing something. But 2 million American women have lost their jobs over this. We went through the stats in the 70s. 25% of all labor in the U.S. was in private sector unions. They are now less than 6%. In fact, public employee unions are more percentage than in the AFL-CIO now than that. $6 trillion of new spending he's proposing in his programs, plus $5 million in the regular budget. That's $11 trillion. We only have $22 trillion of GDP. The federal government right now is 50% plus one on GDP, and that isn't even counting state and local. When you get to that point, you are officially a socialist totalitarian society, Susan Shelley.
I think you're right. We're 10 minutes away from the World Bank telling us that we have to clean up our act or they're going to cut us off. This is not responsible, and I don't think what he's proposing is going to pass. I think it's much too much for the Democrats who are in close districts, in purple states. And I just don't think they'll cast a vote for another $6 trillion of spending to go into giant New Deal-style social programs to create more jobs for union members, which will be funded by taxpayers. This is just it was a wonderful speech if it was 1934, but it's not 1934. We have a great big government and a great big safety net, and we can't just keep expanding it endlessly while we strangle everyone who works for a living in this country.
No doubt about it. I mean, the other thing that I was fantasized by it was the lack of people in there, and with the masks on, no doubt.
Yeah.
What about this vaccine is supposed to be working, and if you did that, you don't spread it. Even Fauci's, even this for the outdoors, is even going to that point of doing that. But MIT said doesn't matter. 6 feet, 60 feet, whatever, social distancing even indoors doesn't make any difference. Yet there hardly anybody in there. They're all wearing masks in the Capitol. What I mean, the virtue signaling to me is just absolutely fantastic.
Well, it's worse than virtue signaling. It's that, but the purpose is to keep the panic going so they can keep saying it's an emergency and we have to take these wildly irresponsible measures. It's the only way. So, for instance, under normal circumstances, if they come to you and they say, we want another $2 trillion and then $2 trillion after that, you're going to throw them out. But if they say, the world is coming to an end and I want you to be terrified every minute that you're awake, terrified, and then having nightmares at night, well, there's just a better way to do it than to keep wearing these scary-looking hospital masks. And the more they scare people, the more they can get away with arguing senseless, because once you're really afraid, I mean, you and I are not, but lots of people are, and once you're really afraid, you lose your ability to think rationally, and you just take their word for it, because you're just so scared. And that's the state that they want people in this country to be in, which is criminal. This is torturing people needlessly. As you said, it's over. The schools could have opened in November according to the CDC, and yet in California we're waiting for the teachers union presidents to decide it's safe. This is obscene.
Absolutely. I mean, the 100% ridiculous, the torture, like I said, at the border. Rumors are there are trucks are starting to move at the border where the hole is at. And where they stopped building the wall. It's been costing us $1 million a day since Joe Biden January 20th stopped the wall construction. $1 million a day we got to pay the contractors for not doing anything. On top of that, now the trucks are starting to move. Rumor is, you heard the official about 2 weeks ago said, maybe we should, after this crisis at the border got way out of hand, well, maybe we should start building that wall again. Rumor is that's going to happen. They're getting the crews ready. It appears they're getting the crews ready to go. I mean, I don't know how much crow Joe Biden can eat, but if he starts the wall construction, if there was ever, the Democrats should impeach Joe Biden if he does that for putting us through this.
Well, he said he was going to raise the cap on refugee admissions, but I don't think he did. And a lot of Democrats are angry at him, but he can't have this giant legal loophole where everyone is welcome in the United States to be fully supported for the rest of their life as long as they come as an unaccompanied person under the age of 18. That's just not sustainable. And obviously, the children are exploited. The taxpayers are burdened. Now we're going to turn over the Pomona Fairplex and the Long Beach Convention Center to be permanent housing for migrants. Now, they don't say permanent. They say the Long Beach contract only goes to August 2nd. But you and I both know they've got no place to put everybody and continue to come at the same rate or more. Where are they going to put people? It's unsustainable. So he has to do something. He has to build a wall, or he has to do a treaty of some sort, an agreement with these other countries, which is what Trump did, which is what Biden set aside in his first week in office. He threw all those agreements out. And now we have this, which is horrible. Horrible for everybody.
You said something I didn't think about it. And I would agree with you. They probably are. No wonder they're locking us down or shutting down everything like the Long Beach Convention Center, or the LA County Fair in Pomona and all that. Well, yeah. Now the plan is turn them into homeless encampments or probably. I hate to say this, but they're probably thinking of turning them into encampments to lock up people like Susan, Shelley, and Roy to keep them from spouting this. And I mean, you kind of laugh about that, but they were kind of laughing about this in Germany and Russia and other places, and then all of a sudden they weren't laughing so hard.
Well, that's true, and they have overcharged the people who were arrested for being at the Capitol with charges that the judges are not holding up, and many people have been held out.
Did we lose Susan? Oh, there you
So
go.
It's concerning, you know. It's like, well, you are a Republican, and we're going to call that white supremacist terrorism because you're a Republican, and you thought there was something funny about the election, and you were upset enough to protest. And we're not going to call it a protest. We're going to call it the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. Since the Civil War! Joe Biden said it's the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. That's absurd. That is absurd.
It is 100%. I want to get to your column. So I said that California is a crash test dummies for all this stuff. They test pilot these programs, whatever, doesn't matter. CEQA, the emissions testing, any other, government control idea coming along. They perfect it, get it here, and then they roll it out. Remember, Joe Biden says, I'm not going to sign the Paris Accords. What did he do as soon as he got in there? Sign the Paris Climate Accords and all this stuff, putting us back on the stuff. Right. Your column is, California's climate leadership does more harm than good. California's wildly expensive model is about to go national. I hesitantly ask you to tell us how.
Well, it was in the speech last night. The president, such as he is, said that he wants to create green jobs. He's going to have a climate agenda, a climate policy that is going to create jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, in the laboratory of California, where we have tested this like Frankenstein's monster, it turns out there are no.
Yes. Did we lose Susan?
Did an independent report. Did I lose you? Are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. The independent state auditor did a report in February saying California cannot document that there are any jobs created by these very costly programs that are supposed to be creating jobs. So we're incentivizing and we're subsidizing and we're regulating and we're penalizing, and it's not doing anything. It's not creating jobs. You want to take that national? Here's what we do in California. We put an extra hidden tax on energy, gasoline, diesel fuel, electricity, natural gas. We put an extra hidden tax on that called the cap and trade program, where you have to pay to run your engines or your generators to provide electricity to the people of California. You have to pay for a permit to emit greenhouse gases while you do that. As a result, you pay in California more for electricity. You pay more for gasoline. You pay more for diesel fuel. You pay more for everything that has those things in the price. Everything that's made or moved in California is more expensive because of this. Now, if you take that national, we might lose our coveted ranking as having the highest poverty rate in America, because everyone will have a high poverty rate, because everyone will be paying too much for the cost of living, like we are here in California. This is a failed policy. It does not create jobs. All it does is raise energy bills. And by the way, the state pretends that it runs on sunshine and breezes. They pretend, oh yes, we're transitioning to solar and wind. We're going renewable. We're going to go 50% renewable, 60% renewable, 100% renewable by some date, 2035, I think it is. Sure we are. Every year that we've been moving in this direction, we have been importing more electricity from other states. How is it generated in other states? We don't even ask.
Royism 101, static analysis will kill you 98.7% of the time. And as the independent auditor up there at the state said, it's not creating no jobs just on that. Now you add into, and I'm pretty much sure they didn't, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, if they didn't add into the jobs this is going to cost by raising the costs of everything, not only driving other companies out to other states and doing this, you are going to be a net loser by doing this on top of that in California. So as I said, watch for, it'll be $5 a gallon gas here soon in California with the fracking ban. That'll spread across the country on that. You know what? It's 15 cents a kilowatt hour now, highest in the nation on electricity. You know what? You don't help us get rid of Newsom, the rest of the other 49 states. Don't listen to me, listen to Susan Shelley. This is what's in your future.
is what's in the future, absolutely. And we have to stop this from happening nationally because people are leaving California and going to Texas and Florida where they don't do this kind of thing. And we're losing a congressional seat, and Texas is picking up 2 and Florida is picking up 1. And they don't do this, and we do. Hint, hint, this is a stupid policy, and we really should end it for the sake of all the people who live in California and who want their children to continue to live in California, because people are being driven out of this state by needlessly high costs, accomplishing nothing.
Yeah, this is called evidence. In the census, when they reapportioned the congressional districts, 5 of the 6 states that gained were Republican or considered red states. Oregon was the only state that the only left-leaning state and left-leaning hard state that gained, and that's probably because of the exodus from California. All 7 of the states that lost seats, because Texas gained 2, so the math works out right, were all from California to, led by California and New York, were all deep blue states. That says it right there.
It sure does. It sure does. And, it's not even the COVID policies, because the COVID thing was going on while the census was being taken in 2020. So this is even before the Democratic governors made it so much worse. And it has to be reversed. All these problems are man-made, and they can all be fixed if we have the right policies, if we're sensible and we have the right policies. But if we're going to pretend that we can run the whole state on windmills and sunshine, then we're going to have high costs forever and a declining standard of living for everyone who's here. And it's not necessary. And as I said, it doesn't accomplish anything. It doesn't change one thing about the climate, not one thing.
It doesn't accomplish anything there, but it does definitely accomplish, it's going to make the very wealthy much more wealthy, and it's going to make the vast majority of you that much poorer. And like I said, that's why I did the deal at the beginning with the whiteboard. And the federal government is up to 50% plus on GDP output, 11 trillion versus 22 other. State and local are only at 3, and then the rest is the private sector. I mean, but even that, it's only so long states like Texas and Florida can stave off the federal government monster, and you kind of butted up of that if the World Bank stops loaning us money, if the world pulls the United States of the world as a world reserve company, because this is how this works. You don't create wealth, or wealth doesn't find money doesn't find wealth. Wealth finds money, and the only reason we're the reserve currency is because America was the most productive. The American people were the most productive citizens, driver of the whole world economy, basically. So everybody looked up to us. They had faith that if we said something or we borrowed money, we could pay it back. You're seeing the signs big time of that cracking. And if that cracks with this China deal, with their own cryptocurrency they're coming out, if they can crack this, if they do it this year, next year, 5 years down the road, life as you known it in the United States is going to be over.
Well, there are certainly risks out there. We could see devastating inflation. I mean, there's a price to be paid for printing money and pretending that it's not a problem. You can do it for a while, but there are consequences, and we're not immune from them. And they can arrive very suddenly and unexpectedly, as people saw in 1929. So I hope we're not headed for anything like that. But we do have to keep our priorities straight. It's one thing to push money out there because you've had a financial crisis, or to push money out because you had a health crisis and you've asked people to stay home. But you can't do it as a permanent, regular policy without an end, which is what Joe Biden wants to do. He wants to just increase government spending for permanent programs like expanded free child care and expanded free community college and expanded free this and free that, expanded subsidies for health insurance, expanded free money for having children, expanded free money for everything. You can't just add all these permanent entitlement programs to the budget, and they never go away because you're never done with it. There's always going to be a need, And if you say that we don't care about private sector jobs, we're not going to expect people to be able to find good jobs in America anymore. So we're just going to have to align with socialism and have permanent high taxation of the wealthy and permanent subsidies of everybody else. That just isn't America. It's not sustainable. It leads to stagnation and resentment and eventually violence. And it would be the loss of our country to go down that path. I hope we don't. I hope that there are enough votes to block this program in Congress, in the Senate. I think there are. I hope there are. I hope there will be in 2022 after the voters get a good long look at what's going on here.
I don't think, and it's my thought, or I think the most likely scenario is it's not going to be Congress that's going to block this. It's going to be the world saying we're not buying your debt anymore. And then and again, that's going to set the domino that's going to start all this stuff. Oh, we got about a minute left or so on that. Tell them why they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Go, Susan Shelley.
We have a bunch of initiatives at Howard Jarvis that you would be very interested in. Go to hta.org. First of all, there's a taxpayer conference on May 20th, which is online and free, and our speaker is Victor David Hansen, who is wonderful. So we're going to talk about saving California. May 20th, register for that, absolutely free online, and we are fighting to reinstate Proposition 58 to get rid of that tax increase on inherited property that was slipped into Proposition 19 and now is going to devastate family homes and businesses when the property is inherited. We don't want that to happen. So we're going to fight to reinstate 58. We need your support for this. Sign up for the emails and join us in this campaign of phone calls to persuade the legislature to right what was done wrong to California taxpayers. So hjta.org, become a member of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Best $15 you'll ever spend. Susan Shelley will do it again next week.
Thanks, Roy. Take care.
That was Susan Shelley, not only vice president of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, but columnist, editorial writer for many papers all across Southern California. And on top of that, very astute political analysis coming every day. And I love to have her on because she explains things a lot better than I can. So that's why we thank Susan for being on. She's a great guest. No, it is. I mean, really, we can play all bets are off on the United States if China, Japanese, United Arab Emirates. If you got to push that button hard to get it to the phone hang up button. But no, if the main people who've been buying our debt for the past couple of decades, and they're making a lot of serious noises about we're not going to do that, and I think China will bring to fruition Khrushchev's wet dream. He said, we will take over the United States without firing a shot, which he said, I think, back in the 50s at the United Nations. And I think the Chinese have got to, they're up to, what, 12 trillion on their economy? They're over the 50% mark of doing on us. They were only like a third of us, like 20 years ago. So they've caught up a lot. They are a powerhouse. They can pull this, which I believe they're working on behind the scenes, to cancel the United States as the world reserve currency. They do that, and it's basically ball game over for the United States as you've known it. And like I say, I think that will be stopping this whole spending spree, government takeover that Joe Biden comes about. You know what? You lose that, you ain't gonna have food to deliver to anybody on that, because it just ain't gonna be there. As Susan Shelley said, look at 1929. Look at Venezuela lately. Look at Rome. When they fell, it was like that. We'll be back tomorrow. The Fast Furious, maybe in Firearms Friday, on that to close out the week, prepare for the weekend, have some fun. on that, because Lord knows we need to have some fun in our lives, because every time it seems like we turn on the news or something, it just keeps piling on. So we'll make it a better day, hopefully. So in 23 hours, see ya!